So today I want to talk about one of my favorite compound movements besides the deadlift, squats. Squats are considered a compound movement because it involves more than one joint and it also involves more than one muscle. Yes, your quads, hammies, and glutes are involved, but aside from that, your hips, your back, it's hitting your core, shoulders, arms. It's a monster movement and you really need to incorporate this into your training regardless your goal. So I really want to show you this picture of a baby squatting. Let's observe its form. The head is in neutral position, the torso is upright, back is nice and straight, lumbar is super strong, the feet are shoulder width apart and the weight are on the heels. The knees don't go beyond the feet, and the most incredible part, do you see that hip crease? It is breaking parallel. This is perfect form, and we were all able to squat like this at one point, but because of day-to-day activities and sitting in unnatural positions like driving a car, just on the computer all day and sitting on a sofa, we've created major flexibility and range of motion issues. So we're tight in certain areas and we have really bad flexibility in others. So what we need to do before starting to train is stretch what's tight and strengthen what's weak. Now, I made a video at the gym of the common mistakes that people encounter when they first start off squatting. So this is how it's going to work. I'm going to pull up the video on my phone and we're going to watch it together. I'll take you through it, but before that I do need to say, excuse the fact that I'm wearing Adidas. They are not the appropriate shoes that I should have been wearing. If you watched my past video, I said that Converse are ideal for this, any flat-footed shoe for that matter, just because it gives you a more stable and solid, strong foundation, and that's what we need for your squats. So in order for any of these tips that I'll be giving you through the video, you must be wearing a flat-footed shoe or just do it barefoot. Alright, so let's start the video. So here's the first mistake. Did you catch that? One more time. And bam. Heels came off the ground. I'm going to pause the video right here so I can try to explain what is going on. Did you see how my heels came off the ground? That's because I shifted the weight onto my toes and I pushed off with my toes. This would normally happen to someone who does not have the best ankle mobility. Now, I'm gonna show you a couple of exercises and variations that you should definitely start off with as a beginner rather than jumping onto the barbell squat. Now, I'm not recommending these because your ankle mobility is shit or because you're weak. That's not the case. I want you to think of it this way. When you first started riding a bike, didn't you start off with training wheels? And then once you got comfortable with that, you removed the training wheels and you were just riding a bike. Same thing goes with the squat. So before starting a proper barbell squat, let's get comfortable with the bodyweight squat. Do that with perfect form. Once that becomes second nature, then you can think about upping the weights. So let's continue watching the video. So here I am doing a bodyweight squat. I have a resistance band around a bar, and that's just helping me stay in perfect form, upright torso. I'm getting nice and deep. My heels are elevated because I'm stepping on those plates. Second variation is just, you'll remove the plates. Now, one thing to remember, I really want you to drive your heels into the ground, and that's going to help you keep your feet nice and flat. Third variation is a goblet squat where you're gonna hold either a kettlebell or a dumbbell right on your chest. Same thing without the plates. That's the fourth variation. Boom, knees caved in. Or as you come up, your knees will just start getting all wobbly. Now, why that happens is because, yes, your adductor muscle is extremely weak, but also your glutes are weak and they're not engaged at all. So how do we fix this problem? We're going to put a resistance band around your, like right above your knees. And as you're squatting down, I really want you to imagine that you're breaking that resistance band. I want you to push your knees out and you're really going to feel your glutes on fire here. And that means that your glutes are being activated. That's what we want. Here's another problem. Boom. Does it repeat itself? It does. All right. So I'm gonna pause here and explain it again. Did you notice how I swayed from side to side as I was coming up on the squat? That happens to someone who has really tight hip flexors. Now, how do you figure out which hip flexor is tighter? For example, if I sway to the left side, that means that the opposite side is the one with the tight hip flexor. And here I'm just giving one of the best hip flexor stretches. It'll really help with that tightness. So you just keep the back foot elevated and lean forward. And you'll get that nice stretch. All right. Another problem is hyperextending at the top. Now, this happens to someone who has a posterior pelvic tilt. When someone, how can I explain that? So there are 3 types of postures, major postures. Someone who has perfect posture, someone who has the anterior pelvic tilt, that's when your butt comes out. Most girls have this problem. And then there's a posterior pelvic tilt, which is just the opposite of the butt coming out. It's when the butt goes in. Now, that happens because you have a really weak posterior chain. So I highly recommend you doing box squats, because when you're doing a box squat, you are forcing your glutes to push back, and that's going to put so much pressure on your glutes and your hamstrings and your lower back, and that's going to strengthen those parts, which is what we need in order to fix that hyperextended hip at the top. All right, bam, this is the worst. And this is so common. Do you see that rounded back and how my elbows are elevated and pointing out? If this happens to you, it's because your pec minor is extremely tight and your neck muscles are too. And just pause there. And your neck muscles are too. So right here in the video, I am getting a nice deep stretch for my chest with that resistance band. All I'm doing is leaning forward. And then I'll give you some neck stretches, basic, side, side, up and down. So if you're experiencing a rounded back, definitely stretch these 2 parts before getting into your squat. And I just want to show you how to do it with proper form. You set the bar on your trap. You're gonna roll your shoulders back and away from your ears. That's the perfect cue to give. I want your elbows to be parallel to the ground, and that's what's gonna keep your back nice and straight. Perfect form. All right, so those are the tips that I have for you today. I hope that brought clarity to someone out there. One thing I do want to point out is let's strive for range of motion rather than volume. It's so much more beneficial for you to get a deeper squat with lighter weights than a shallow one with heavy weights. So let's focus on getting stronger, getting that form on point. Let's avoid injuries, and yep, that's it. Let me know if these helped you in some way. If you're experiencing some other problem during your squats, comment that down below, because maybe I can make a part 2 to this video. And if there's any other exercise that you'd like me to make a video on, comment that as well. Cheers.